In all of human history, it's never been easier to swim in short-term pleasures, in hedonism from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. You can quite literally push aside all your responsibilities, push aside all your goals and ambitions, and just live for the moment every single day, doing things that feel good right now, but in the medium to long term will do more harm than good. There's endless entertainment right at our fingertips. There's a liquor store at every corner on the street. You can literally go on your phone to order whatever kind of junk food you want. There's adult material, drugs, you name it. The list goes on and on and on of things that you can do every single day to just mindlessly pleasure yourself rather than doing something deeply meaningful and fulfilling within your life. Many people lose themselves in hedonism, but by feeding into that every single day, what you're doing is essentially draining your energy to these forces that are steering you off the path of what's truly meaningful and purposeful within your life. And yeah, while I'm all for having a fun time, and while I'm not saying that you should live like a robot and never do pleasurable things that you enjoy, what I will say is that by constantly indulging in these things, you're essentially losing yourself. Because deep down, I truly believe that everybody wants to pursue something deeply purposeful and meaningful within their life. They might not be able to articulate what that is. They might not feel that within them, but I truly believe that deep within everybody's psyche, within everybody's soul, you could say, there's a part of them that wants to contribute to something greater than themselves. There's a part of them that wants to make the most of what they can with the time they have on this planet. Maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm overly optimistic, and that could be the case. I get that, but regardless, it's so hard for many people to step away from these short-term pleasures because our brains are wired to find the path of least resistance. We want to avoid pain and embrace comfort and predictability and security. If we find comfort and predictability and security with these everyday short-term pleasures, then we're going to indulge with them. It takes a lot of thinking for the future, a lot of mental fortitude as well, to realize that, okay, indulging in these short-term pleasures might feel good now, but it's not going to get me the life I want to live. Now, perhaps not for everybody, but I think for most people, there comes a point in time when they wake up one day and think, you know what, I'm so sick of avoiding discomfort. I'm so sick of avoiding that deeply meaningful thing that'll propel my life forward. I'm so sick and tired of totally indulging in whatever short-term pleasure it is that I've been doing for all these years. And that can be a big moment of change for many people. Unfortunately for many people, for many others, they feel motivated for a few days or a few weeks and then they just revert back to their old ways because that's safe and that's predictable and that's comfortable. As I mentioned before, the human brain wants that predictability. It craves that predictability because that is what is known. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. And back within my own life, one of the biggest short-term pleasures for me was TV and movies and doom scrolling late at night. But then it got to the point where I was just so sick and tired of that feeling of waking up with a massive headache because I was staring at screens all day. Or that feeling of tossing and turning at night because my brain was still overstimulated from whatever movie or show I was watching right before I went to bed. And I do think universally, this is a pretty common thing. You can enjoy whatever that pleasure is only to such a degree. And then it gets to a point where you're like, all right, I don't even enjoy the pleasure. And this is actually something that Dostoevsky talked about in one of his books. He said, shower upon him every earthly blessing, drown him in a sea of happiness, and even then, man, out of sheer ingratitude, sheer spite, would play some dirty trick. What he's saying here is that even if you give people all the pleasure in the world, all the things that they say they want, we will find a way to create some sort of chaos. Now, that doesn't necessarily need to mean that you do something that is destructive to other people, but it could be some sort of self-sabotage. That could mean you get angry at yourself. You start having these limiting beliefs. You start having these experiences within your life where you're just low energy and you don't really enjoy anything around you because You're so fed up with yourself about all the overindulgence and short-term pleasure. He believed that people need some sort of struggle and a pursuit of freedom and something to move towards that was way off in the distance, something that was hard to achieve and very difficult of a journey, but regardless, that is what we needed rather than endless pleasures being thrown at us and accessible to us 24/7. I'm in the same boat. I totally agree with that because we tend to, like, let's say, for example, you achieve whatever goal you want to achieve, whether that's, let's say it's losing 20 pounds. Okay, you're going to look in the mirror one day once you've lost those 20 pounds and be like, damn, I did it. However, it's the journey to losing those 20 pounds, the pursuit that actually releases dopamine within the brain. And that dopamine, that helps you feel good. That's why so many people say it's about the journey, not the destination. And in this regard, it's so true. Let me put it very simply with this basic example here. So I like to think there are two sides to us. There's that pleasure-seeking side that wants to avoid discomfort and just indulge in whatever short-term gratification you can. And then there's that soul part of you, that deeply rooted human nature part of you within your psyche that wants to go on an adventure, that wants to learn these new things and pursue these higher goals, these things that will not only benefit you, but the people around you. And every day, those two parts of you, they clash. They clash because that pleasure-seeking side of you, as I mentioned before in the video, it's deeply rooted within you as a survival mechanism, okay? Your brain wants to avoid discomfort and embrace this certainty and security and pleasure because that means deep within you at the biological level, that means that your chances of survival are much higher. At least that's what it did thousands of years ago when the earth was a less safe place compared to what it is now. Any sort of discomfort or uncertainty back then directly influenced or directly impacted whether or not you were in a safe position or an unsafe position. The tricky part is that your pleasure-seeking side has never had it easier. It's temptations everywhere you look. Now the thing is, when your soul, that deeply rooted part of you, way down within your psyche, when that part of you feels like it's been ignored or neglected for a long time, then it manifests in these unexpected ways. You get mad at yourself, you get mad at the world around you, you self-sabotage, you start having these self-deprecating thoughts. And from there, it's very difficult to get out of that hole because you feel like you're losing energy because all of your attention is going inward at this negative self-talk and these self-destructive behaviors. And every now and again, you might have one of those moments when you're like, what the hell am I doing with myself? What am I doing with all my time? Why am I trying to escape my reality with these short-form pleasures? And you might feel fed up in those moments. You might feel angry. And it's all justified. I totally get it. I've been there myself. This doesn't make you crazy or weak. It doesn't make you somebody who isn't smart. It doesn't make you unworthy. It simply makes you human because there's that part of you, that soul part of you deep within your psyche that wants more. It wants so much more than these simple, shallow pleasures that are accessible to everybody. But only you can decide whether or not you want to pursue those higher purposes, those deeper meanings within you. Because we're living in times where hedonism and things of this nature are glorified. They're widely accepted. I remember being at work a couple of years back at my old job, and one of my coworkers Monday morning was like, "Oh yeah, how was your weekend?" And I said, it was great. I spent a lot of time outside. I did some writing. I hit the gym, some reading. It was awesome. I said, how about you? He's like, well, I got smashed this one night. I smoked a bunch of weed, drank a bunch of alcohol, went to a few clubs, and we're sitting at this table having a staff meeting, and everybody around me is like, yeah, awesome. Like, look, sounds like you had a fun time to this other guy. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell? Like, people think I'm boring for hitting the gym and spending time outside and reading books, but this guy's talking about how he got messed up and how his head's still in a fog today and he's all hungover and everybody's like, yeah, good one, man. Yeah, great job. It's wild. I don't say this to demean anybody. I don't try to be rude here, but this is simply the nature of our modern world. So what this means for you is that, you might have a hard time stepping back from all these short-term pleasures that you've been indulging in for all these years. And maybe you won't. And if that's the case, then awesome. It's a great thing. But there will always be that calling deep within you, that part of your soul, that part of your psyche that's like, hey, we are meant for more. We can do more. You're more intelligent. You're smarter than this. Why are you wasting your time and energy on these meaningless things? And it's up to you to answer that call. Many people will have these moments when they're talking to themselves in the mirror or they're writing in their journal and they get all motivated and they're like, let's go. I'm going to turn my life around and make all these big changes and pursue something that's deeply meaningful within my life. They'll do that for a few days, maybe a few weeks, but then they just fall back into their old ways because things get tough. They don't see the immediate results. When we're pursuing something that's difficult and challenging and meaningful to us, we won't see those quick results. But our brains have been conditioned to expect quick results from things like short form content and being able to order any kind of food to your doorstep within 30 minutes and et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that you'll have to be mindful of within your own life. If you do decide to answer that call and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I am meant for more, then you're going to have to stick it out. And one of the best things that I have done just about every single day over these last 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, is set aside 5 or 10 minutes and remind myself why I'm doing the things I do. I'm reminding myself of my purpose. I'm reminding myself of the person I'm trying to be. I'm reminding myself of the things I'm working to accomplish. I do this usually 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning, and that sets the tone for the rest of the day. Because once you can do this and you read out all those things, all those reminders to yourself, then everything you do for the rest of your waking hours reflect exactly what you did right from the start. So if you want to be jacked, or if you want to be better looking, or if you want to be rich, then write these things down. Get a piece of paper. I don't have a piece of paper near me, but get a piece of paper, write down all the things you'll accomplish, all the things you'll learn, all the people you'll meet, all the places you'll go, and read that every single day. This serves as a simple reminder, and I know that it sounds very, very basic, but having these little reminders for yourself is, to me, so important, especially since we're living in this fast-paced world where we're throwing more information, but more information is being thrown at us all the time. And we're exposed to so much nonsense, so many things that our ancestors, even our grandparents, didn't even have to deal with. So, best thing you can do is just slow down, remind yourself of the person you're becoming, and stay on the straight and narrow from there. All right? So, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of this. Bit of a different video today, but this is just what was on my mind. So, anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.